Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin officially just invalidated this bullish divergence with one confirmation signal, as the price of Bitcoin is now starting to reject from this important level of resistance in the short term. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside the price of Solana, which is also now invalidating this bullish divergence, while the price of Chainlink is continuing the massive rejection from this major area of resistance and also invalidating this bullish divergence. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the 4-day Bitcoin price chart, and right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red, so nothing's really changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, obviously, at least for now, the MACD indicator is still currently looking bearish. It's looking more bearish than it is bullish, but just over the last couple of weeks or so, obviously we have slowed down the bearish momentum. So once again, it's not looking bullish, but it's just not looking as bad as what it was looking like a few weeks ago. And so that is still the situation on this chart. Not much has changed over the last 1 day. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, once again, as I've been saying for months now on the channel, since almost the all-time high at above 100,000, we have a massive bearish divergence to pay attention to on the weekly time frame, telling us to not expect any significant bullish momentum, at least in the somewhat shorter term. And this has been happening once again for quite some time, considering it's on the weekly time frame. But as I've also said over the last few months, even though I do not expect any significant bullish price action like this, like bullish momentum towards the upside, of course we can see some short-term bullish moves here and there, not no bullish price action, just no significant momentum towards the upside anytime soon. And so not much has really changed on this chart. Once again, really on the larger time frames, these are basically telling the same story as what I've said recently here on the channel. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously just over the last couple of days, we have played out a rejection from this Fibonacci level of resistance, the 38.2% Fibonacci level of resistance, which is sitting at close to 88,000. And also just over the last 1 day, we've now officially confirmed at least one daily candle close below this Fibonacci level, which was sitting at around 83.3k to 83.4k. So basically close to 83,000, just above 83,000, which was acting as a bit of support, but obviously now that level is broken. And now we do have some short-term levels of support and resistance to pay attention to, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But first of all, the next significant point of support towards the downside from the current price is sitting in between around 70,000 to 74,000, based on previous significant resistance becoming new support, and also a lot of traded volume in the volume profile indicator starting at roughly 70,000. And so once again, as I just said, and as I've said recently here on the channel, we can find some other short-term levels of support, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But that is simply the next significant area of support where we would likely find a lot of demand. A lot of buyers will likely buy Bitcoin in that region if we actually get there. And when it comes to resistance on this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, as I've said since before this latest perfect rejection right here, we have a lot of resistance in between around 86,000 to 88,000. So once again, that 88k level, which is pretty much exactly where we rejected from, is still acting as strong resistance, at least for now. And if we were to finally see a confirmed breakout with at least a solid candle close on the daily time frame, but ideally a 3-day candle close confirming above 88,000, in that situation, the next short-term price target, the next major point of resistance, would be sitting at around 91,500, close to 92,000. And above that, I'll be targeting around 96,000 based on the golden pocket here, and also based on a lot of traded volume in the volume profile indicator at 96,000. But obviously, before we can even start looking at those higher prices, we need to focus on this area of resistance first of all, at close to that 88k level once again. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, of course, we still have this descending line of resistance, which is still acting as strong resistance. As we can see, we've seen multiple rejections from this exact line, and right now this is sitting at just below 87,000, now approaching 86,000. And just before taking a look at some other important Bitcoin price charts today, talking about some other important levels to watch out for. First, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades right now over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses that are only available using that link. And so for example, simply by making your account using that link, you can get up to 23,000 USDT onto your Bitfinex account as a trading bonus, which you can actually withdraw, by the way, or you could get a brand new Rolex or a holiday to Dubai or Apple products here simply just by trading crypto using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video as well. And in case you're wondering, that link can also claim you some massive trading bonuses over here if you use that link. And also 2bit is a no KYC exchange as well. But with that being said, taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, and just over the last one day, we've now officially confirmed that break towards the downside in the daily Bitcoin RSI to invalidate this bullish divergence. And so in other words, this is one confirmation signal officially confirmed on the price chart, telling us to not necessarily rely on this bullish divergence for any longer. Now, technically speaking, one confirmation signal can sometimes not be enough. So for example, it is possible we could play out a bit of sideways price action, basically the bullish divergence still trying to play out. But with that being said, due to the fact that we've now actually confirmed this signal over the last one day, I'll not rely on this bullish divergence really any longer. But obviously we got a couple of weeks of a bullish relief in the short term, which was very nice. This was pretty much the exact outcome that I've been talking about over the last couple of weeks for this bullish divergence here on the daily time frame. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, obviously over the last few days, we first of all broke below this ascending line of support for this ascending parallel channel, and that was sitting at just under 85,000. And then we ran into this next point of support right here, sitting at around 83,500. And then of course we broke below that level of support. And then like I explained in my last video, obviously we had this level of support to watch out for next, sitting at around 81.6k. And that's pretty much exactly where the price of Bitcoin bounced from almost exactly 81.6k. And then we came back up towards this previous level of support, now acting as new resistance, which is exactly what I warned about in my last video. I said expect resistance at around 83.5k, 83,500. And at least so far, as of recording this video, we've just seen a perfect rejection from almost the exact dollar from 83.5k. So once again, this is simply acting as resistance, at least in the short term right now, for the price of Bitcoin. And so the current situation for the price of Bitcoin, at least in the imminent short term, talking about the next few hours or days, is that the price is basically trading within a bit of support and resistance, within a bit of a sideways price range. So honestly, I'd not be surprised if we simply just chop around a little bit within this area right here. And once again, the area I'm talking about is mainly in between roughly 81,500 to 83,500 as the support and resistance. But if we can finally see a confirmed breakout back above around 83,500, in that situation, we'd likely see a relief up towards around 84.6k and close towards around 85,000 as the next points of short-term resistance. And then obviously if we break out above those areas, we have significant resistance as the price starts to approach that $88,000 level. And as for short-term support, if we were to actually see a break below around 81,500 approximately, then in that situation, the next short-term level of support is sitting at pretty much exactly 80,000, and below 80,000, I'll be watching around 78,500. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, at least for now, we have a small amount of liquidity in the short term at just under 81,000, at close to 80,000, and also a small amount of liquidity at around 89 to 90,000. But most of the liquidity is sitting at roughly around 71 to 74,000, and also a lot starting to build at around 63,000, and also still a decent amount at close to 100,000. And so not a lot has changed in this liquidation heat map over the last 1 day for Bitcoin. So with that being said, getting straight into Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and of course on this weekly time frame right here, the situation for Ethereum is not looking good. Obviously, as I've been saying, the moment we broke below this line of support right here, this multi-year line of support, that was a massive bearish signal for the long term for Ethereum, not just the short term. So at least for now, that is still the situation, despite seeing short-term bounces here and there. Of course, the larger trend is bearish, also known as a bear market. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Ethereum price chart, obviously we have started to break below this Fibonacci level of support, sitting at around 1870 to 1880 approximately. But technically speaking, we still need to actually see a candle close towards the downside here below that line to actually confirm the break towards the downside. And here on the 3-day time frame, the next 3-day candle close confirms in a little over 1 day from now. So if basically tomorrow, just over 1 day from now, if the price is still at roughly 1.8k below around 1870, in that situation, that would be one confirmation signal to confirm this break towards the downside. And in that situation, we could find a small amount of short-term support at roughly 1750 based on that previous candle wick low right here. But ultimately, the next major point of support, the next significant price target towards the downside, would be sitting at just above 1.5k at around 1520 to 1540 approximately. And so not a lot has changed for Ethereum over the last 1 day. So getting straight into the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, and right now Solana is still testing this area of support again, sitting in between around 120 to 130. And so obviously, at least as of right now, we definitely do not have any significant bullish momentum, but we're still seeing a lot of demand within this area, basically a lot of buyers supporting the price from basically going any lower, at least for now, in between 120 to 130. But if that demand runs out and if the price starts to break below 120, we could potentially see a drop all the way down towards around $90 per Solana if 120 first breaks with confirmation. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, what has just confirmed over the last 1 day is of course this break towards the downside in the daily Solana RSI, with at least one candle close on the daily time frame confirming this break towards the downside, which is now one confirmation signal to invalidate this bullish divergence. And now, once again, as I said earlier in the video, just one confirmation signal sometimes is not always enough. Sometimes, ideally, we need to see even more confirmation with a few more candle closes, for example. But with that being said, for me, at least in my situation, this is enough to basically not really rely on this bullish divergence for too much longer from what we've already seen. But obviously, over the last couple of weeks or so, this bullish divergence has played out very nicely, exactly as I've been saying it would, for roughly 2 weeks, which is usually the most common outcome from a bullish divergence on the daily time frame. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, at least for now, this massive bearish divergence is still currently active. So nothing's really changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 8-hour time frame, the price of XRP is now playing out that slight bullish relief, that reset in the RSI that I said we would likely see over the last 1 to 2 days or so. Because obviously, as I explained in my last video, we've just officially confirmed an oversold signal in the 8-hour XRP RSI, telling us we're running out of room towards the downside, at least in the short term, and that we're likely going to have to see a reset in the RSI back towards the upside out of oversold territories. And when that plays out, that usually plays out in the form of either a bounce in the price or at the very least a bit of sideways price action, but often it's a short-term bounce. And so essentially we're seeing the exact price action that I talked about in my last video, and I continue to expect this at least over the next few hours, maybe over the next day, just the short term once again. But if this bounce continues over the next 1 day, maybe 2 days, essentially that will reset the RSI back towards the upside here on the 8-hour time frame. And once the RSI resets towards the upside, technically speaking, that gives us some more room towards the downside again. So just keep that in mind. An oversold signal is not necessarily a bottom signal. It just means we need to see some sort of a reset, at least in the short term. And obviously that oversold signal coincided with the price getting very close to major support, which is yet another reason as to why we've seen this slight bounce here in the short term. And this next significant area of support that I've been talking about is sitting in between around $1.95 to $2.05. And we bounced from basically within 1 cent from that area of support at around $2.06. And as for resistance to watch out for, if this short-term bounce continues, I would expect this previous area of support to become new resistance, as we kind of saw just here, and that's sitting in between around $2.24 to $2.30, now acting as resistance. But if we can finally see a confirmed breakout back above $2.30, in that situation we have more resistance at around $2.48 and also at around $2.56. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, obviously over the last couple of days we rejected from this massive area of resistance, the previous golden pocket area of support, flipping into new resistance, and that's sitting in between around $14.90 to $15.50. And obviously over the last few days, once again for almost a week, we've seen multiple perfect rejections from that level of resistance. And so obviously that is still the resistance to pay attention to right now for the price of Chainlink. And of course, over the last couple of weeks, we had a bullish divergence perfectly playing out here in the short term in the form of a short-term bullish relief just for a couple of weeks, once again here on the daily Chainlink chart. But just over the last 1 day, we've now officially confirmed a breakdown in the RSI below this ascending line of support, which is technically one invalidation signal confirming to invalidate the bullish divergence. And so once again, as I've said multiple times in this video, this is telling us to basically not rely on this bullish divergence for any longer. Obviously, it already played out very nicely for a couple of weeks, and we shouldn't necessarily be overly greedy, expecting much more bullish price action based on this bullish divergence alone, considering we've now confirmed this breakdown in the RSI. And as for support to watch out for, the next important point of support based on these Fibonacci levels is sitting at around 1270 to 1280. And at least for now, we still have a lot of support around there. But if we were to actually break below around 1270 with candle closes below that level on the daily time frame, for example, and especially if we flip that into new resistance, then in that situation, the next significant point of support towards the downside below around 1270 would be sitting at roughly $10. But honestly, I would not be surprised, at least in the shorter term here, talking about the next few days or so, I would not be surprised if the price simply remains range bound for a little while between this point of support and resistance, considering at least for now, this is major support and of course major resistance, and we're kind of lacking momentum overall in the market, at least in the somewhat shorter term. We're basically trading within a bit of a sideways price range. But ultimately, if we're zooming out, of course, this is currently occurring within a larger bearish trend. If we're simply looking at the highs and the lows, for example, we're clearly forming lower highs and lower lows, which is obviously a larger bearish trend, as I've been saying for months now on the channel, since much higher prices. But remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can profit from crypto, no matter what the price is doing, whether it's bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, you can profit from all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.